I was lucky enough to be able to make it into the closed network test for Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, the latest installment into the Sonic Racing franchise. And from my first initial reaction to the tease back at the Game Awards, I was pretty skeptical, as I'm sure many others were too, especially with how Team Sonic Racing fumbled. This game is definitely a lot more polished than I thought it would be when getting into the closed network test. I wouldn't be surprised if we're closer to the actual release date of the game than we think we are. Now obviously, with this being a closed network test, there will be times where the game isn't as stable as intended to be. It's essentially a beta of the game, and they're collecting data and feedback from the test to figure out root causes of certain issues and go in and fix them, which with any beta is how it's usually handled. But that being said, despite the issues I've seen some people say they've had, I've come across none of these issues. So most of these issues must be really hard to replicate and are very rare to even come across. Aside from these small issues that people may run into though, the game feels great to play. It definitely has something different apart from previous entries, but it feels so similar enough to the previous titles that it's hard to put your finger on what's different apart from them. Something I really like about this, though I think should be presented more to new players, is the fact that you can choose to play with the Team Sonic Racing controls, because the game introduces a new way to play. Now, I don't want to compare games, but the control scheme really reminds me a lot of Crash Team Racing, and honestly, I kind of dig it. But I'm glad that they allow an option to go for a playstyle that most fans of the franchise might be more familiar with. In the game, you're allowed to play up to 9 different characters, including Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Shadow, Omega, Eggman, Cream, which surprisingly has cheese sitting on the top of her head, and I'm just so happy to see that, and Zaz, which is an interesting choice because the fan favorite had always been Zavik, but it's interesting that they're starting to show some more Zaz again after all this time. I would have preferred Sage or Metal Sonic, but it's alright. Alongside that, we get a bunch of character slots that are locked, which we already know most of the roster thanks to overanalyzing the trailer for the game multiple times. To give an idea of who all are in here, aside from these 9 characters, are going to be Vector, Espio, Charmy, Big, Rouge, Eggpon, Jet, Wave, Storm, Blaze, Silver, and Zavik. Alongside Sonic Prime characters get in via the digital deluxe version of the game. It's unconfirmed whether or not these characters will come in as skins, fingers crossed, because a big turnoff for me when it comes to racers are when a character that could easily just be a skin takes up an entire slot for the roster, but we'll have to wait and see. Personally, in terms of characters I really want to see are mostly IDW picks, such as my OC Tangle, nice little reference if you're an OG DaveAce fan, Whisper, Surge, Kit, Ruff, and Tumble. The only Sega characters I want to request are Kiryu and Majima from the Like a Dragon series, so I really hope that they get it. There are a lot of characters and I'm pretty impressed with the selection so far, especially with Sage, since it's so nice to see that she's a mainstay for the cast, even in spin-offs. Another cool thing about this game, unlike other games within the Sonic Racing franchise, not including Riders because that's a separate franchise, within this game you can choose whichever kind of vehicle, or as the game refers to them as machines, for any of the characters. No longer are your favorite characters tied to the restrictions of their own car, and what makes this even more interesting is the customization portion, which is very in-depth. Like, there is just so much here to do, and I can only imagine how much more crazy the selection of parts may become in the future. You can change the front end, back end, and tires. You can also put on decals, change the color scheme set to a certain character, or even make up your own. There are also a few different types of machines made for different kinds of playstyles: speed type, acceleration type, handling type, power type, and later on you'll be able to get access to the extreme gear, as that's unfortunately not available in this closed network test. Speed obviously makes you go more fast, acceleration helps with building up speed, handling is a balance between all of them and is also my personal favorite, and then power type makes drifts a bit tighter, and I'm not really sure what else. I'm not the most experienced with it, and I'm not a big fan of it, so anyone who's more experienced with the power type, let us know in the comments down below what you think it's mostly good for. A neat idea that I'd love to see them bring to the game is a community tab where people within the community can design different machines, upload them, and let people download their loadouts. I've seen so many cool machines while racing that I think there's a huge space for something like this to have place within the game, and it'll definitely keep people coming back just for the design aspect alone. Also, most most of these car parts are pretty fun. Like for the handling type, you can make a Motobug inspired vehicle, and for the power type, you can make an egg drill from Sonic 2 inspired vehicle, alongside which I'm assuming is a reference to Fang, with these car parts starting with Fang within the name itself. So I'm very curious of what other references they could throw in, especially from Sega titles outside of Sonic as well. The other thing about machines are the gadgets, which add a huge RPG element within the game itself, allowing you to customize which gadgets you equip to your car, allowing you to do certain things, like having 3 item slots, so you can use 3 different items, make certain items bigger, collect more rings, change how boosting works, allowing you to have up to 4 levels of boost, making it to where you can have an even higher chance of getting hazard items, attack items, defense items, and boost items. Man, what a mouthful. There are so many different things to choose from, and you're allowed to have up to 5 different gadget loadouts. I don't even know where to begin because there's just so much to check out and test. Definitely wish the network test was lasting a little bit longer just to get a better understanding of how gadgets work, and I hope we'll get another test within the future to be able to test new things out. While playing the game, a lot of features from Transformed is present, such as the ability to transform your machine into a plane or boat. As stated, the controls are very similar to previous titles. The only difference here is when transforming into a plane, you oddly can't perform an air trick to gain a boost, like you used to be able to. Either this feature is intentionally taken out, or just something that they decided to leave out of this test alone, I'm not sure. But I feel like adding it could potentially make it faster in a way, or maybe even making a gadget that lets you get a small boost when transforming into a plane can be added later on. Boats are very different. Instead of being able to drift within the water, you are now met with the ability of being able to hop out of the water and do air tricks to gain extra speed. This can kind of be difficult to move through, making turns a lot sharper. Found that just rapidly tapping the drift button kind of makes it easier and oddly keeps your gauge filled, which is likely due to being able to switch from drifting left or right. But other than those things alone, I don't really have much of a problem with them, and I think within time I can definitely adjust to the new challenge it brings to the new title. The network test includes 6 main tracks going from East Stadium, Rainbow Garden, Water Palace, Metal Harbor, Ocean View, and Wonder Museum, all with amazing music and great track layouts that don't feel too stale, despite the fact that Water Palace doesn't have its original track from Sonic Rush. Each of these racetracks really showcase what the game is capable of being. Alongside these 6 main tracks, you have 5 different CrossWorlds, which take place within a second lap of the main track, and is determined by the person who is in first place. You can choose from Roulette Road, Dinosaur Jungle, Kraken Bay, Lava Cave, and Sky Road. And sometimes when switching to these CrossWorlds, you have a chance for a Frenzy event to happen, which either adds more boost rings to the track or allows you to instantly charge up your drift boost to level 4, allowing you to become metallic for a short amount of time to deflect items and hazards. Speaking of items, there are so many different things to talk about that make the game so chaotic. First, you have this blade that cuts your car in half, slowing you down a bit. King Boom Boo is basically the blue shell from Mario Kart. You can get punch gloves like in previous racing titles. A new monster truck transformation item that turns your machine into a monster truck, allowing you to go off-road and squish other players within the race. Drill is just basically the bullet bill from Mario Kart. Laser, which is a very rare item but lets you get a little bit ahead of the pack. Alma Chow gives you rings. Dark Chow steals items from other players, and there's just so much more that I'm pretty sure I'm missing, but just know the selection of items are a lot of fun and adds on to so much more of the chaos that each race brings, making it really interesting where you'll end up at near the end of the race. That being said, a lot of the feedback that I can give, and as stated by many other people within the community that have access to closed network tests, is that these items desperately need some balancing to them. There are plenty of times when it's been constant struggle to keep first place, and I end up getting an item that might not help me within the long run, or I immediately get bombarded by a ton of items just completely being launched at me like I have a target locked onto me saying hit here. While this does sound like it could be more fun, it is really grown to just be moments away from passing the finish line in first to almost instantly get a knockback to 5th or 8th place, and I can see how this could be very frustrating to those who were able to maintain first place and immediately question what went wrong. There was a moment in my previous stream on the game where I constantly kept getting ran over or running into a monster truck almost immediately after someone had already used one, and it just added on more to the burn of something that was completely out of my control. During this closed network test, you are only allowed to play the world match, which pairs you up with various people from all around the world playing on their PS5, and of course other platforms when it eventually releases, as the game will have crossplay, which I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Sega, because that is desperately needed for something like this. When getting into a lobby, you're able to vote for 3 main tracks or have it randomly select between the 3 main tracks if you don't care or know which one you want to go to. Though this time in the lobby is very short because of how fast it is to load into a game, huge props. I was expecting a lot of network issues, but thankfully there weren't as many as I had expected. You're able to view players. Upon viewing them, you can actually select them, see their loadout, and even give them props. Though I don't think most people know about this because it's so easy to overlook and isn't outright shown or explained to you when getting into a match. After each race, you're rewarded with golden Donbot tickets, which can be used to purchase things that you can customize your machine with, as well as gadgets in the future. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is a fun game, and I think it definitely stands out from most racers. I look forward to seeing what Sonic Team is cooking with this game and can only hope we'll see it live a long lifespan, as I'm sure they intend to keep pushing for it to be an ongoing racing title, with them setting up multiple social media accounts for it, and overall just really showing how much they care about making this game as fun as it can be for anyone and everyone wanting to check it out when the game launches. What are your thoughts on Sonic Racing CrossWorlds? Are there any issues you've came across that you think should be fixed? Do you like the game? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, please leave a like and share it around. And don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to not only show support for more Sonic content over here in the future, but to be notified when I upload said content. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.